Hi, this is John Craig with Performance Plus Tennis. If you're a beginning player or even an intermediate player who's looking to improve your serve, this lesson is for you. I'm going to go through a series of principles and concepts that are going to help you get on track to building a professional quality serve. Before we begin, let's go through a couple of things I want you to understand about the serve. First of all, the serve is a choreographed movement. And by that, I mean it is a completely planned movement that is not influenced by anything else. You are in total control. The beauty of that is that you can develop it and work on it and really make it your own, and that's fantastic. The other thing that's important to know about the serve is that it is certainly the most complicated shot in tennis, maybe one of the more complicated things to do in almost all sports. So it's going to take some time to develop the movements and the principles that make a serve really work well. The other thing to understand is that a lot of players have preconceived notions about what the serve is, but it's not intuitive. Some of the things that go on in the serve and some of the mechanics are not intuitive, meaning that what you think it is, it really isn't. So you're going to have to really have a fresh approach and a fresh mind as we develop these concepts on the serve. The first principle I want you to understand about the serve, and perhaps one that is also not intuitive, is the grip. And it's really important that you understand what the ultimate grip is that you want to use, even if you can't use it right away. And the ideal grip for serving that virtually every high-performance player serves with is what we call the continental grip. And, names aside, the easiest way to find the continental grip, and the other nickname for it is called a hammer grip, is we're literally going to hold the racket like a hammer that we're going to hit a nail into the wall with. So if I imagine my finger is a nail, I'm going to hold the racket so I can deliver the edge of the racket to the nail. And that places my hand up on top of the racket so that my index finger knuckle is to the first bevel to the right of the top of the handle. Now, you might be thinking, you're showing me that I'm going to hit a nail with the edge of the racket, so why does this grip make sense? And we'll get into that a little bit later on. But the reality is that this is going to allow you to have an active and full range of motion that's going to be able to generate more power and more performance on your serve. So get a continental grip, and you can do a bunch of different exercises that'll help you get comfortable with it. Everything from bouncing a ball. More advanced is I'm going to turn the racket over and I'm going to pick up the ball. I can go to a fence and I can go on edge and then I can turn the racket in. There's a number of different things you can do that will enable you to get comfortable with the grip. So regardless of whether you're comfortable with this grip or you can serve with this grip, I want you to start your serve and your setup with this grip, even if you make a little grip change during the swing itself, which is definitely not uncommon. So once you've got your grip established and you come up to the line, I want to make sure that you get set up properly. And it's very important that your stance and your alignment with your body matches the grip. So for example, if I were to face the net and I had a continental grip, it would be very difficult for me to make the ball go in the box. If I'm sideways and I have a continental grip, everything starts to line up and make it a little bit more comfortable. So when you're starting out, just step up to the line. Make sure you're not stepping on or in front of the line because it's a footfall. And get your feet separated about shoulder width apart or hip width apart. You can see that my back foot is parallel to the baseline and my left foot is off on a slight angle towards the net post. This would be a perfect place to start. And just relax with your hands together this way. And you could just go into what you see the professional players do where they let their arms fall away from each other and let the ball go down and just do a little routine. And then you can reset your hands. And there are a lot of skills that are being developed inside this exercise, controlling the ball, tempo, and the speed that the arms move apart. There's a number of different things that go on in here that are going to help you start to get comfortable with the serve. So make sure you come up and you start to feel like, rather than just coming up and just hitting a ball, come up and set up your feet, set up your grip in your hands, and try to implement a little routine that gets you started to feel like you're serving. And that's getting you on track right away. So now that you've established the appropriate grip and the stance that supports that grip, we're going to turn to the motion itself. And the serve motion is very much like the throwing motion. So if you have a pretty natural throwing motion, this is going to feed right into your serve. The biggest difference between throwing a ball and serving is when you're serving, you're going to be throwing upward versus forward when you're throwing the ball. And we have a lesson here in our playlist. Every serve needs this, and it really details what the motion's all about. Refer to that particular video to get more details on how to develop this throwing motion and the key ingredients that are inside of it. But for now, if you can just get a nice, easy throwing motion going, combined with the stance and the grip, that's going to help you move through this phase of the serve. So after you've established a little bit of a throwing practice and you've got your throwing motion going, get the racket back in your hand with the continental grip. And when you go to throw, just throw nice and slow. And more than likely, you're going to throw that edge right through where you're going to contact the ball, because that's kind of what you're used to doing. It's more intuitive just to go forward. So you can see that my racket is just passing through. So the edge would actually hit the fence or the ball or whatever object or a nail as I'm coming through. It's just going to come through this way. And just get the feel of that for a couple minutes. So the racket's in hand with the continental grip, and you feel like the edge is going to hit that ball on the side or the nail. Just let that go, so that you start to feel as though this throwing motion and the serving motion are starting to take shape and form together. So now that we've been working on the serve motion and we're coming at the ball on edge, we've got to obviously get our strings to turn into the ball. So I like to use the fence drill to do that. So I can simulate my motion, hit the ball on edge, and then turn the racket in. So the racket is actually approaching the ball on edge and then rotates as it comes into contact so that the strings square up on the ball. And this is a fork in the road on the serve, and I really want to encourage you to build this skill. In all my years of coaching, I would say this is the hardest thing to change later on. So if you're not serving with a continental grip and getting the motion into the ball correct, or really working on the beginning, understanding what it is, very, very difficult to fix later on when you want to build your serve and get that high performance out of it. So spend a little bit of time on this and try to develop this motion. So keep the continental grip and learn how to bring those strings right into the ball. And again, there's much more detail about what really does this and where the power comes from and all those things. And those things will be detailed in a separate video. But for now, just try to get that continental grip and get that racket to come on edge and turn to the ball. And we'll activate those other things later on. One of the biggest challenges that beginners and intermediate players face on the serve is getting comfortable with the grip. And oftentimes what we do is we just use the grip that intuitively feels like it's correct. And that grip would be more like a forehand grip, where your palm of your hand is really more on the back of the handle. It's almost the grip you'd use to play a forehand. And this grip tends to make a little bit of sense in the beginning because it's so easy to get the strings on the back of the ball. So you can make the ball travel and direct the ball towards your target. The problem with that grip is it limits your motion, your range of motion significantly. So it's very, very limited in how you can develop your serve around that grip. And the other challenge is, and as I've mentioned, is that if you serve with this grip for 6 months, and then you say, you know what, my serve isn't good enough, I want to get better, I want to serve at a higher level, and you try to change this whole mechanics, the grip and the motion that supports it, it's a very, very difficult thing to do that most people are not successful in doing. So it's so important that in the beginning you go through a little phase where, maybe this grip doesn't feel intuitively correct. Maybe you don't like the results right away, but stick with it because it's what's going to allow you to really have a much better serve later on. So the key here, let's avoid the forehand grip and the popping action to get the ball in the box. And let's work towards getting a real motion to help you serve much, much better. Now that we've established the grip, the stance, and the motion that we're pursuing, let's work on the ball placement. And of course, this is very, very important. This actually becomes the center of the serve because everything is going to adapt to the ball placement. So the more skillful you get at placing the ball in the right place, in the right area, the fewer modifications you have to make to play the shot. So the best servers have the most consistent ball placements. And of course, this is difficult because we're doing it with our non-dominant hand, the hand we prefer not to use for most things in life. But here we go. Now we've got to use it for perhaps what becomes ultimately the most important thing on the serve. So when you're setting up to serve and you've got your stance, you've got your grip, I mentioned earlier the routine, just let your hands fall away from each other, place the ball down, and let the ball come back to your hand. And this is going to help you control the ball. Okay, and I'm using the whole arm to send the ball down. I'm not flipping my wrists, not trying to introduce any kind of wrister action. It's just a nice, easy, gentle tempo that I want to transfer into an upward movement in a moment. So this little exercise here is going to help you get a little bit more skillful with the ball as well. Tossing arm, ideally, in the beginning here, just have the tossing arm extend out over your toe. So the left toes are facing out towards the net post. This is a great place to start. I don't want you to toss the ball this way because that encourages your body to face the net, and you'll find that some advanced players will toss the ball parallel to the baseline, but we don't need that much motion right now. That will build in later if that's natural for you. So just get that tossing arm to extend out over the toe. And the point of release for the toss for most players is just above eye level, maybe forehead level. So you can just practice the skill that I'm doing right here, where you start, you come to the back foot, and you just raise the arm. And just skillfully raise it from the thigh to the release point. And keep this shoulder muscle engaged the whole time. Let's not let it just sort of relax and collapse. What you're really doing here is you're building this muscle to make this movement with control. So you want to keep this muscle engaged all the time to the point of release. And that's going to help you not only know where to release the ball, but the tempo and the feel of letting that ball go. So a couple key things about the ball placement. First of all, you understand where the release point is, and you can see that my body is very stationary and very stable when I'm raising the arm through the release point. I don't want my body getting involved here and trying to help it with jerking or lifting. And that's why this exercise here is so important, where you just stay still and just move your arm from the shoulder as a lever and just keep calm everywhere else. It's a really important skill to get. And now we want to understand where we want to place the ball. And when your tossing arm goes out over the toes on a 45-degree angle, you can pretty closely release the ball straight up from here. So it makes it very, very simple to identify whether the toss is a good one or not. And the ball doesn't have to arc or bend back into a position to play it. So straight out towards the net post, release at the forehead height, and the ball will come right back to the hand, and I can identify that pretty quickly. So use your non-dominant hand to identify a good ball toss. So once I release the ball, my tossing arm is going to continue to rise, and it's going to get me into a nice balance and trophy position, and then I'm going to use this hand as a guideline for my ball toss accuracy. There are other coaches and other lessons that encourage you putting the racket on the ground. The problem with this is that I'm not going to know whether the ball toss is good or not until the ball actually hits the racket. So here I am doing my routine, place it up. I don't know. Maybe. Where if you use your hand, it's going to help you when you're actually playing. It's going to help you make that decision very quickly so that you can make the right choice as to whether to play the ball or not. So I strongly encourage you to work on your ball toss and see if you can start to get more consistency with it rather than just serving all the time. Because if your ball toss is inconsistent, that means your motion's always going to be adapting to the ball's location. And if the height is always different, it's going to be changing the tempo of your serve as well. So the more you can get control of this, the easier it's going to be to adapt to the toss consistently and not have to make a lot of modifications. So the easiest way to practice the toss, again, is just start out with your little routine that we've done. Set your hands and stay nice and stable and place the ball up. And work on that ball coming back to your hand. And you'll notice that the ball didn't come back to my hand. Probably was still playable though, because it was pretty close to the hand. But what I don't want you to do is this. I'm going to deliberately toss a poor ball and go over and catch it. Because that really you don't get anything out of that practice. So I'll do it again. And what you can do is you can just let the ball go away and kind of feel like you get into a balance and let the ball bounce a couple times. Because the next phase of the serve is going to be placing the ball and getting into a place where you're kind of stable to make a swing from. So you've got to have a nice neutral balance that you could produce a swing from that's comfortable. And if you're going out and chasing the ball all the time as you're tossing it, you're not really practicing the feel of finding that balance. So the balance I want you to get into is going to feel very neutral. Share your body weight over both feet equally. And you could have a little bit of a flex in your knees. I don't encourage straight legs, but don't worry about using your legs on the serve at this point in time. Just feel like you use them enough to feel like you get stable and you've got a nice balance to swing from. And that's really a great place to go. So if you can just get into that balance and place the ball up so it comes back into your hand, you're on your way. That's a great combination and a necessary combination in order to serve well. So that's how you're going to detail out the balance and your ball placement. So now we've covered a lot of the fundamental principles. What I want you to do is take the ball out of play and actually rehearse the serve. Imagine for a moment that you're a dancer, and when you're learning a dance choreography or a dance movement, there's no music playing. You're learning the steps and the patterns and how to connect those all together. And then once you've got those together, the dance teacher will turn on the music, and then you'll adapt that movement to the music. Tennis is kind of the same way, and because the serve is a choreographed movement, it's very much the same. So what I want you to do is remove the ball from the equation and practice your serve without the ball. Because the ball at this stage is more likely going to influence your movement. So let's take that out, and let's just imagine we have a ball. And just keep doing this. And you'll start to find your style and your feel. And through repetition, you'll start to build muscle memory that's not influenced by the ball. And you'll start to gradually, it'll start to move in the right direction and improve. Go slowly, take your time, and just imagine that you have a ball in hand. And if you have the availability of a camera, film that. Get a film of your serve rehearsing without the ball, and that's going to help you do a little comparison later on. The next stage of rehearsing is with the ball, but I'm actually not going to play it. I'm going to do my routine with it, and I'm going to reset it, and I'm going to imagine I place it, and then do my swing. Routine, pause, place, swing. And do that until you start to get very comfortable having the ball in your hand. And then you're ready to go to the next phase. So in the next phase, I'm actually going to place the ball. And I'm not going to place the ball in the right area. Okay, I'm going to purposely place the ball out of my contact. And this is really important. You start to get this built into your mindset right away. I'm not going to chase the ball. What I'm going to focus on is keeping the same choreographed movement that I'm building. And if the ball happens to be in my swing path, then it's in my swing path. But I'm not going to modify the timing or the path of my swing to hit the ball. So what I'm really trying to learn how to do is place the ball into a great swing rather than compromising my swing to hit a ball. And this is where a lot of club level players, beginners, intermediate players go wrong. They play, they toss the ball up, they go hit the ball, and they play it. And that is so limiting, and it really is not going to help you develop that great serve that we want you to have. So as you go along, you're going to hopefully get a more accurate ball toss. So I'm going to try to place the ball into that swing, not modify anything at all, and hit the ball. Not bad. I didn't have to change my swing path or my swing tempo to hit the ball. And I'm starting to get the feel of it. Okay? So as you can see, the coordination of this beginning and the placement of the ball is critical to serving. If your tempo is too fast or it's erratic and the ball is in the wrong place and you've got to modify your balance, you're not going to hit a good serve. So now that you're starting to serve, you're probably experiencing something that everyone feels when they first start serving with the continental grip. And that is that you're not squaring up on the ball and the ball's tapering off from right to left for a right-handed player. So I remember being a kid and learning this grip for the first time, and all my serves looked like this. They're just cutting off the side of the court, not even making it to the net, and I was going, this can't be right. But the reality is, as you move along, you're going to start to implement that skill that you learned on the fence, where the racket's coming on and it starts to square up on the ball. So over time, you'll start to square up on that ball with the continental grip. But it's just going to take practice. Stick with it. This is where the fork in the road is. If you stick with this, you can develop a professional quality serve that's really going to help you tremendously down the road, elevate your game. If you back off of this and go with the forehand grip and don't get this continental grip skill built in, you are going to limit your serve tremendously. So invest a little bit of time, get this skill built. And of course, there are more details about the motion that will be available to you in a separate video. But for right now, just get out and practice and work on developing this motion with this grip. So you're probably thinking, well, how long is it going to take for me to develop this skill and get the right motion and the grip and all these things? And, really the answer is it depends. It depends on how much you're willing to invest in, the time in it, and how much time you actually practice it relative to how much time you play. Remember, you're always going to play matches with the skills that you're comfortable with that you bring to the court that day. So if you're not comfortable with this movement, you'll most likely default to what works for you so that you can compete. And for most of us, we're trying to win. So you've got to have a better ratio of practice time per match time. And particularly with the serve, you've got to practice it a lot so that you can bring what's comfortable and the right movement to your match. So how long is it going to take? Well, it's going to take more than a month. Okay, you can build your foundation, you can get the right movements in there, but to actually get this to work and function in a match environment, it's probably going to take you a couple of months if you're practicing 3 times a week. If you're practicing more, you can get it sooner. And if you're practicing less, it's going to take a lot longer. And again, the ratio of practice time to match time is critical. Think of it this way. Every time I serve incorrectly to get the ball in the box so I can get going on the point, it's like taking $1 out of the bank, out of my serve bank. Every time I go out and I try to work on the movement and have the right idea and serve correctly, I'm putting $1 in the bank. So you've got to spend the time building equity into your serve skills so that you can start to deliver professional quality serves in your match play. Another principle that's really very important that you understand right from the beginning is that you're going to hit up and swing up on your serve. The dimensions of the court and the height of the net do not allow players shorter than 6'7" to hit the ball hard on a straight line, have it clear the net, and land in the service box. So your ball is going to have to bend in its flight. It's going to have an arcing quality to it. You cannot hit down on your serve. So when you've got this grip, most likely the first thing that's happening is you're putting spin on the ball. So that spin is going to make the ball want to dive even sooner, and you'll learn more about spins later. But you've got to think, I'm going to go up and over the net. And if I go long, that's okay. But I'm going to go up first and have the ball dive down on the court. And try to get this movement, and we talked about this in the motion, where you're not throwing forward or hitting forward, but you're actually throwing upward. And on the serve, when you're actually playing the ball, you're swinging from underneath up into contact before you come down. And that's just a concept you want to get embedded in your thinking and in your imagery right away. And that's going to help you not only with your motion, but also with your results. Thanks so much for watching today's video. I hope you'll take these concepts of the court and start building your serve into a quality shot. And of course, there's so much more to learn about the serve. So if you'd like to dive in and build your serve into a real weapon, I encourage you to take a look at my Serve Foundation course, which has helped hundreds and hundreds of players like you develop your serve into a professional quality weapon. The course features 18 videos and over an hour instruction, plus a planner and a guide to help you build all the principles in 30 days. And best of all is you get lifetime access to the course, so you can refer back to it anytime to continue to refine and build your skills. And if you enjoyed today's video, please like, comment, subscribe, and feel free to let us know if there's a particular topic you'd like us to cover in a future video. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.